Hello, welcome everybody who joined us today. My name is Olga Atamanova, and I'm glad to welcome you in the Media Center of Ukraine. We will be talking about the crimes of Ukraine today, of Russian Federation today, and we are trying to keep this focus of attention because we understand that this topic is important for all of us, and we will have the presentation of the study displacement of the Ukrainian people, children from the occupied territories through the prism of Russian narratives. First we will have the presentation, and after that we will discuss it. I will present to you Kateryna Rashevska, philosophy doctor in the international law, Kseniia Korniienko, leading legal expert, Oleksandra Dvoretska, head of policy at the Bring Kids Back UA initiative, Vyshniakova, head of LingvaLexa NGO, international criminal law consultant. I thank you all for joining our air today, and I would like to give the microphone to Kseniia. Let's talk in more detail how exactly was studied conducted. Thank you very much. And first of all, I would like to thank everybody who joined our presentation today. And I would like to also thank my colleagues who helped me with this study. As of today, the crimes against Ukrainian children are done not only in the physical world, but also in the informational space. In the Crimea, for example, we are observing how the deportation and displacement of children is followed by a wide informational campaign. It is aimed at denying the fact of their displacement at all in general, and it needs to be said that such studies were not conducted before, and the crimes of Russia in terms of education of the children needs to be. We also studied the reaction of the international community, and another goal of our study was to show what consequences these crimes of the Russian Federation are happening, and we need to understand that these crimes are given as a worries, as help, as an aid. However, those are just the manipulations that are aimed at not letting us getting our children back. I have studied a lot of Russian social networks, Russian laws, media articles, and we had an opportunity to show in this study how exactly this narrative that tells us about help, that we are showing that it is in reality is used for just an image, and our goal is to show to the international community what is the real situation around this question. Also, we're systematically documenting around 3 years. And we are publishing from time to time, periodically, materials about the camps that the Russian Federation has for re-education of children. So needs to be said that the federal government of the Russian Federation is in charge of this program for re-education of children. Here you can see the chain of command, and they are they are using help of different organizations, governmental and non-governmental, in the Russian Federation that are helping to transfer children from place to place. Those camps are not resort camps in any sense, not quite as the Russian media is claiming them to be. Starting 2014, those camps were put into our focus. However, since 2022, the systematic quality of this policy of the Russian Federation was seen effectively. So the Russians are trying to cover the information about the transportation of Ukrainian children, that they are actually helping those children, and also in a manipulative manner they are creating an image of Ukraine that are not taking care of their own children. So their most spread narrative is that they are taking kids to the summer camps. As you can see here, we are quoting the head of the military civil administration of Kharkiv Oblast, who said that the children are not taken anywhere. Also, some Russian sources are claiming to take the children because of the security reasons. However, this is not the case, because here you can see the scale of the number of the children that were taken away is that does not fit into the picture that the Russian Federation is trying to paint. In October 2022, the Russian media claimed that 360 children were taken to Crimea and other resorts in the Russian Federation, and some time later, they are claiming that only 100 children are left in the resort camps. However, the places of their location is being contradictory from claim to claim, and we don't have any kind of evidence that this group of children was returned during this period, and we can actually say that the Russians are trying to confuse us and prevent us from knowing where those children are located. About the summer camp programs that are aimed at re-education of Ukrainian children, for example, program Day After Tomorrow, that is aimed at re-education of Ukrainian children. Also, the project University Changes, that is spreading the PR for Russian educational facilities, also spreading information about the so-called Russian traditions. Also, there is a project Ahmad that are focusing on a military program for children in the summer camps, where they are basically playing war games, and it is supported directly by the Russian political authorities. We also have observed cases when the program for re-education of Ukrainian children in the camps, that the goal of which is the patriotism and the necessity of sacrifice for the Russian people. The numbers that we have in our report, we are observing that in 2000 23-24, there was 102 cases of transportation of Ukrainian children to summer camps in the territory of the Russian Federation. And in the Russian Federation itself, 98 facilities were functioning in the territory of the Russian Federation. They took care of the re-education or transportation of Ukrainian children. Also, the network of institutions that is taking care of this problematic also increased. It's around 150 institutions. And also, to finalize, I will say that the actions of the Russian Federation, these actions of the Russian Federation is seen by the European community as the deprivation of these children, the right of their ethnicity and citizenship, and also there is a lot of violations in terms of basic human rights is fixated and is registered, and also we are claiming that we can imply a crime against humanity because the Ukrainian children are being taken away because of their nationality, and we wanted to see what Russian officials are saying about this situation, how exactly they are explaining to themselves all this situation. Thank you, Kseniia, thank you for these results. Kateryna, you have the mic, and one of the ideas for this study was from you. I would like to know, what do you think about the construction, the creation of those myths and narratives that the Russians are using, and what kind of counter propaganda can be used. Thank you very much. Well, the idea is not exactly mine. I was kind of, I think the inspiration was Oleksandra, who was on the floor today here, when the prosecutor office is actively watching what kind of crimes the Russian Federation is committing, and when the narratives around this situation are constantly changing, and we felt the need to see in depth how exactly the Russian propaganda is reacting to the events that are happening in the reality. We did not have such study before because the situation is so dynamic right now that it is a completely new study. So in terms of the problematic itself, we hear claims that there is not much that can be done for helping or returning those children. Like, for example, there are claims that when Russians are using the term health improvement facilities or summer camp, then that are located not only in the occupied Crimea, but also in the occupied Zaporizhia Oblast. So you can see that by the end of 2024, 2025, the number that they used to mention in the beginning, 730,000 or something like this, it was not agreed between the Russian Federation and other sources completely. And they were claiming that majority of these children have parents, but through different complex circumstances during the war, because of the war, these children found themselves located in the territory that is controlled by the Russian Federation. But this is not. This is just a manipulations. So the Russian is trying to convince their target auditory that the parents are afraid to address Maria Belova's office and return their children. Another narrative, which is connected to the delay of the return. This is a narrative about the children being returned to families, and that the Russian Federation is acting in the best interest of the children. So when we are talking about this, we need to understand that people that the children are staying in basically in orphanages, and there is, however, Russians are making it sound as if there is no other options. However, there are options that can be implemented. For example, they can be returned to Ukraine. And the final narrative that they are spreading, and it happened not so long ago, the list of the children that our president passed to President Ramaphosa. Remember, 400 children, also 300 children in Istanbul in June, and as a reaction, Maria Belova said that Ukraine is passing those lists starting 2022. However, it's a twist of information because when we are returning only 100 children out of 400 that left Ukraine, then there are questions. So in the majority, they are claiming they're using manipulative data, untruthful data, and false data, and how these myths were created and how they evolutionize. Russian Federation, depending on whether it is useful for them or not, they are referring to international law, and they are using basically a lot of red tape to confuse the situation, and like, for example, they can use humanitarian rights, international humanitarian rights, and those territories that were occupied by the Russian Federation, they are spreading their own law to those territories. However, they are not using the international humanitarian law, are not applied here. And in the domain of international and private right, the state is some kind of just an observer or a entity that is taking part in the development of the regulation. However, is not responsible for anything. So, from the point of view of the Russians, the people that are responsible for the children are parents. However, needs to be said that the Russian Federation did not mention a single time what their responsibilities in terms of those children are, and they never passed any kind of lists to the Red Cross. They did not mention any kind of procedures that they will be implementing to return Ukrainian people. So I have an impression that the Russian Federation haven't even thought about how exactly those children will be returned. So even financial responsibilities, they are shoving them to another countries in the UN. Also, what they are claiming is that the information that they are relaying the opinion of children when they are saying that children want to stay inside the Russian Federation. I remember there was this funny article about children that wanted to evacuate from Mariupol to Russian Federation, and I have doubts that it is possible to express your own opinion in the Russian Federation about these children, much less make any kind of steps towards this goal. So this is where I want to mention that the Russians themselves, they're claiming to be the best propagandists in the world, and that the conception of the best interests of the children is located inside their hearts, and this in this way they're trying to justify the fate of these children. So that's how they are trying to legitimize this under the source of their best interest. How exactly these children found themselves in the focus of Russian media? The thing is that these children are serving as a tool and also as a goal for some portion of Russian aggression. So the country is not capable of protecting their own children, the most vulnerable portion of the society. So this is kind of like a slap in the face to Ukraine. We have taken your children. They will not be Ukrainians. They will be brought up as Russians, and this is one of their questions that they keep raising about Ukrainian Nazis, nationalism, and adjacent stuff. It's only in imagination of the Russian Federation. The investigators that we were working with during this past half of a year, we have seen a specific activity specifically aimed at keeping those children on the territory of the Russian Federation. And here I would like to quote one of our politicians that Russian Federation is trying undermine the situation inside the country, and also discredit the governmental organizations in Ukraine. Also, the Russian Federation is acting as a parasite on the image of the saviors of these children. So they're trying to show themselves, to paint themselves in the humanitarian aid actors. And if you remember how this aggression was prepared, you can remember this piece of news, the Alley of Angels, a boy in the underwear, and the thing is, when Putin announced the full-scale invasion or special military operation, it needs to be understood that he was aiming to paint an image of himself and the Russian Federation as of benevolent entity. However, we need to understand that the Russians are very powerful. They're indeed very powerful in terms of propaganda, especially in negative propaganda. They are the first, actually, in the world. So it needs to be accepted that we cannot defeat the Russian Federation with their own methods in the information war. We need to just provide truth. We need to talk about truth and spread it everywhere. However, I also have doubts that this way we will have any kind of success, because in what form this truth has to be provided in order to be efficient. So, in my opinion, we need to work with international court institutions. Work with independent monitoring missions and journalists, and we need to work more with those entities. And because only this will help to preserve the truth in the long term. Also, the precise reflection of data, including the statistics in the reports of the UN, have to be paid attention to, because we have found some decreased numbers in the UN reports. So if we add the UN reports, it's only about 200 children. However, there is much more, many more children that were abducted, and the qualifications of these crimes is basically need to be characterized as such that are against humanity. So the Russians, as always, are trying to rewrite the history to avoid the responsibility, and our job is to is the opposite, to register their actions, to help preserve the information and truth, and also the situation around specifically these questions. We need to understand that the Russians are also trying to introduce a notion of help towards Ukrainian children instead of actually crimes against them. And as a final word, I would like to quote Ivan Bagryany, our Ukrainian writer. He said that Ukrainians are dangerous for Russians because Ukrainians know the truth about the Russians that the world does not know. So this is where our job lies, in bringing this truth to the international community. So thank you. Now we understand how efficiently this huge propaganda machine of the Russian Federation is working. So it was really interesting to hear your estimation. I would like to hear your estimation of how good we are fighting it right now. This is a very good question, but let me answer it after the presentation. But I would like to give microphone to our speakers because within the framework of the Bring Back the Kids, I think this is where the counteraction to the Russian propaganda is happening in actuality. So the presidential initiative, I know that it is systematically working on returning the children back. So what data do you have about this? So what data do we have? And how do you use it in your work, and how does it affect this propaganda how does it affect the return of our children? Thank you for the microphone. Thank you for invitation. The study that was conducted for this study. In reality, to separate the propaganda and the truth is hard, because the propaganda is kind of following the truthful pieces of information. So they are not lying per se when they are using this or that informational reason, and sometimes we. In those cases when we don't know the number of the children that were abducted from this or that region, what was the number of children that were transported from Mariupol? How many stayed? So we are talking about 1,500,000 children that are staying on the territory of the Russian Federation. So the Russian Federation is motivating is justifying their actions by political repressions or persecutions in Ukraine, or security situation, and trying to paint an image of children that will be having a good life in the Russian Federation. So this is a tool of the occupiers, of the enemy. This is a tool of this possibility to take away the Ukrainian children is a part of this informational war. And why does this work at all? Well, that's because Russian Federation is working not only on their narratives, but also working on manipulating the truthful information together with falseful information. And the work of separating this information is hard. So they were different narratives that they were relaying in the Russian media, like in the social networks. There were claims that they were separating children. That children can be re-educated, and those children that cannot be re-educated, they will be criminally prosecuted. We already have cases of some children being in jail for being foreign agents, and in this way they are ideologically transform the minds of the target auditory. And I have heard the story, one of the stories that from the people that were in occupation. She said this phrase, she was good with maths, and she was told, she said that she was told that she would be the pride of the Russian Federation, and she said that she didn't want to be pride of the Russian Federation. She just wanted to study. So the Russian Federation is using talented Ukrainian youth to create education programs, additional propositions. So they are basically are trying to take talented and skillful children to universities. They are arranging in this way. They are arranging the path for these children in the Russian society or community. Taking this into account, the source of the information that we are receiving are the children themselves. So, as I said, only 83 children were returned thanks to the mediation of Qatar. In the majority of cases, the children returned themselves or through some connections or through some people that their parents know, or thanks to saving missions. There is a lot of details could be said, but it needs to be said that the children are risking a lot when they are putting a lot on the table. They are risking a lot when they are finally decide to return. In our experience, we are witnessing the best human stories. When those children are telling us what happened to them, how they were forced to sing the anthem of the Russian Federation, to raise banner, and how the pressure is happening in the school, how militarized lessons are being are in schools, and Ukrainian sources of information are basically being muted completely for those children, and only Russian media and cultural projects and programs and out of school development. Everything is covered for these children, excluding Ukrainian sources. And the meetings, the discussions about Putin and the Russian Federation as a country, it starts basically in the nurseries. And the informational manipulation, there is a wide variety of methods, and the one that the Russians are using a lot is mixing truth with false, with lies. So the Russian Federation is showingly or they're basically showing, bragging about how they are relying on the international law when they are doing when they are committing their crimes. And it is also important that Russia wants to negotiate all the time. I will probably return to this. It was mentioned that there are lists, there are some procedures for exchange of the children within the framework of some of the projects. We are feeding information by small portions to Russia in order to avoid the manipulation with this information, and also to make sure that the children are safe in terms of their data being made public. And the negotiations, we are talking about the fact that the children need to be returned without any condition, unconditionally. They cannot be exchanged for any kind of military personnel or other things. So this has to be our point of talks, and our partners also need to be in sync with us in this regard, and we are already talking about this on all different levels in different platforms. Exactly for the sake of our partners knew what kind of steps we are undertaking and what kind of help we need, and the children that are returning, that they are traumatized. They're really traumatized, and in order to return the trust, towards adults, this process is very slow. So we cannot tell them you were lied to for some years in the Russian Federation. Now you will be told only truth. So the process is slow, and this is probably the last appeal. We need to work with the children because they are supporting our work immensely. I would like to talk about the legal dimension of this situation. Do we have enough instrument? Do we have enough tools to punish the Russian Federation for these kinds of propaganda narratives? Do we have these tools? Thank you for the question. Hello, everyone. I would like to thank to the Regional Center of the Human Rights. It is a very interesting study in this dimension to compare the propaganda domain. I would like to also to thank the prosecutor. Answering to your question, we don't have enough tools, no. When I was listening to my colleagues, I separated for myself two dimensions of this propaganda. One dimension is aimed at the children themselves, and another type of the propaganda is aimed at the world, and depending on this, the legal responsibility will be depending on this. So we did some investigations in regards to the children abduction, and this year, for example, one of the representatives of the youth army, Russian youth army, who is in charge of the propaganda. So with Article 151, paragraph A of the Geneva Convention exists. However, it only is interpreted for very significant violations. So this is so for the whole country. This paragraph is not applicable. So we are facing the situation that lawfully, legally, this path is blocked, and the suspicions that we will be having, they will not be processed. So, like for example, with Crimean prosecutor's office, we worked kind of successfully. However, we need to work with all the other prosecutors' offices because we know for a fact that the propaganda is being used on those territories that are occupied. So this is kind of horrible when a child lived on the territory of Ukraine, and now you can see him, an instructor in the Russian youth army, who is recruiting more people into their ranks. And when we want to have possibility to put responsibility on the perpetrator, we need to pay attention to these questions. So I am really grateful to you that you are raising the questions of the persecution, the propaganda about persecution of persons in the territory in Ukraine because of their political convictions, and there are different opinions about how exactly we need to proceed from here. So there is one proposition according to the international standards. It is okay to proceed as such. However, the court says that it's not possible. So what was happening before 2024? We will not be able to punish because of the aforementioned reasons, and the crimes that were committed against our children, according to the general jurisdiction of the international law, it will be processed. However, some of the crimes need to be separated. Like, for example, indoctrination and right for self identification, deprivation. So there is also a notion, a concept of assistance in crime. So when we will be talking about how the abduction of children was happening, we need to also to mention those people who assisted in those crimes. As Kateryna mentioned, that Russia is the #1 in the world in terms of negative propaganda. In this regard, I think it is our responsibility to make sure that the path is built, at least for the other countries. I think it is even more important than responsibility for the crimes to build efficiency. So about the efficiency of this system, of our legal system, we understand that not only the problematic lies not only in the legal domain, but is also much wider than that. So how efficient are we in terms of fighting the propaganda? Here, this is absolutely precisely said. It's just not enough to say that, look, there is Russian propaganda, and here we have our good Ukrainian truth. This is not enough even for internal listeners. The truth only can be found with using a critical thinking. And critical thinking is something that is taught starting in nursery, in the schools, in the universities. So the Russians understand that they need to destroy the critical thinking, because they understand that the critical thinking is forming human personality. So if they want to impose their own Russian worldview, they need to do exactly that. So there was another investigation, because I'm not sure if I can talk about this because we were forbidden until a certain deadline. So what are the demands for the education of our children? The critical thinking stands for the majority of our children. So we need to make sure that the society, Ukrainian society, is critically thinking. So Russian Federation, it is obvious that they are intensively trying to exchange notions, like putting children in front of a choice, whether if they're not with them, it means that they're enemies, something. It happens even in our society, I hear Russian-sounding arguments like there are two sides to every problematic and things like that, and we need to find out if it's even worth to provide the Russians with a platform to provide their point of view. And it is kind of surprising to me when I was doing a report, the Russian liberals started mentioning the abduction of Ukrainian children one after another, and after that I was asking myself, is this the only problem in the Russian Federation? So they think that it is their imperialistic responsibility to mention children. That's why they are putting so much focus on this problematic question. So this topic is working for them, and it is provoking sympathy, and this needs to stop, at least at this stage, because during this current informational aggression, the Russians are working as united as a whole. So even their shift from the international sphere to the domestic legal sphere, they are saying, "Mom cannot take the child to the Russia. That's why they are being deported." So this does not allow us to talk in professional language, legal language, and this storytelling, as of today, it happens not only in the media. If we don't have an article like, for example, happy mother have found her child, and the experts are not saying that there was a deportation, so this is not a material worthy of the media, and there are questions of how the returning process happened, how the help is happening for the children. We need to take care, because we will traumatize children by not keeping the balance between the justice and the child's own desire to express their thoughts, and or maybe they want to fight for returning the other children from the captivity. So the subjectivity has to be provided in some form. However, it has to be balanced. Thank you for your answer. I would like to give a microphone to the floor. If there are any commentaries, please. All right, no questions on the floor. Oleksandra, I understand that you work with the International Target Auditory. What are your thoughts about the efficiency of our work with this auditory in terms of returning our children? Is it significantly developed, or we need to work more? Well, so there are no such partners that are not informed about this problem. However, it needs to be said that we still have this problem, and it is our main pain. And we need also to understand that there are many competitors in the world, competitors for attention of the world community. You know, it's probably horrible that there is such a competition among the victims who is suffering the most, and such things. So we often unwillingly get into this trap, and we are seeing cases when people are getting this whataboutism argument, and why are you mentioning only Ukrainian children, and why are you not mentioning other children? So the organizations that represent Ukraine on the international arena are their main goal is precisely to word our problematic in an appropriate manner. So during the meeting, one of the meetings, there was a Ukrainian child, and I want to say that how sensitive the procedure of working with a child was. They did not use this child as a tool of counter-propaganda. They just were working with this child, partnering with the child in terms of psychological support is given to the children. Also, we have this rule that a child has to be asked whether they want to give an interview or not, and only after that we are working on difference, and that's why Russians are accusing us all the time that we are reiterating the same story. We're not reiterating one and the same story. We're just taking the most outstanding stories from those, and they are similar because they're all horrible. And this is not an empty sound. Those children, the Russian Federation is trying to make those children tools for themselves. The demand from the media for sensationalism in Ukraine and in the world, it is everybody wants some linear stories about empty. Show us empty bed, show us empty room, and the problems are begin. First of all, you cannot get to their rooms because cities are destroyed, towns are destroyed, the parents are killed. This is a kind of stories that media wants. Also, media wants stories, accusations. They're starting to ask how exactly this child found themselves alone, and we need to basically spend time and explain how people were separated. And because European political landscape is humanitarian in its nature, they are seeking this kind of justifications for themselves. They are trying to convince themselves that the Russians are not such monsters, basically, and that's why they're asking such questions. And in the reality, this is exactly the reality. This is the last meeting of the Ukrainian Parliament. The topic was about children, and the Russian Federation is just one party, and nobody is preventing them from calling some things white and some things black. However, they are continuing this propaganda to emphasize that they're fighting the whole world, basically, that the whole world is against them, and that's how for them the government functioning within the framework of the governmental programs is most important for them, and they're claiming to be uniting around these values, and the Ukrainian children that are put in such environments, they're indoctrinated in an efficient manner because the experience volume with Ukrainian children is huge for the Russian Federation. It is hard to believe that Ukrainians are at fault here in any manner. We have a question on the floor, please. I'm a psychologist by education and profession, and I hear time and time again that the Russian machine, propaganda machine, is a systematic, directed, deliberate against our society. This is influence. That has this legacy, this has ideological legacy from the Soviet Union times, and this machine is basically actively starts being more and more active, and it is hard in this context. It is hard to provide our truth, to give our information to anyone, and how hard it is to return those children back. And I remembered, because I was present at one of such events. It was a platform of an American consulate in Kyiv. There were different expositions presented from civil organizations. It was about LGBT, I think, at that time. So as an example, we could take those platforms, those consulates, those representatives, maybe let some kind of civil organizations to present visual information in order to spread this information in different cities, settlements, towns, countries. I understand that this is a state institution, the consulate and other representatives. But I think they need to be open for civil organizations that have information, that have materials, that can publicly talk about these things. This needs to be covered by our state, because it is in our interests, and also it needs to be provided in those countries that such events will be taking place. Maybe it's already how it is. Maybe I'm not inventing a bicycle, basically, but I just was impressed by how efficient this way of work is. And I would like to thank Kateryna for her critical thinking thing. This is very important component of the development of a child that starts developing even before the school age. So I think that's where we need to put focus on, because and this contradicts a little to the fashion, to the trends that we have right now, because higher education, like the school age, the senior school age, is the time when this type of thinking is formed. So we need to put some focus on this as well. We need to develop critical thinking in our children. It will be great of this formation if it will be founded on our cultural values and democratic values. This will be perfect in this case. There is another question. I'm asking to pass the mic. My name is Roman Abramenko. I do investigations in the NGO Akunin project. Thank you for the topic that you are raising. It was really interesting to listen to the speakers. It is important to know what transformation sustained the propaganda. So who is at fault? So I would like to tell you, Oleksandra, and you, Kateryna, said in your presentation that we need to find the ways to present the truth. And indeed, we need to find the way how we're going to spread the truth. And I agree with with your opinion that the Russian Federation is best at propaganda. At the same time, I would like to say that the behavior of the Russian Federation is not changed. Is not changed. By the fact of the children being on their territory, and we are already used to ask periodically, to mention periodically the fact of abduction of children, and we at the same time we all understand some of the numbers are not adding up. To be talking about 1,500,000 children, maybe the state has some kind of opinions or programs or drafts of projects for children who live in the occupied territory. Maybe the propositions of relocation, special programs, anything, because. If possible, to comment it. Within the frame of the Bring the Kids Back, the presidential initiative, we're working with this category of children. I was talking about the children that are under the risk of deportation, who live in the temporarily occupied territories. Right now, their families are covered by all the programs that are reintegrational, that are aimed at the children, that are aimed at persons that returned from the occupied territories and were displaced, forcefully displaced. For example, when people were not forcefully displaced and wanted to voluntarily go out of the occupied territory. This is when the corresponding financial aid is being paid for such children. This reintegrational package is effective during the first half of the year, and I must say this is not enough, because first of all, this is resource, and another thing is the difficulty for the process itself. The Russian Federation limited the travel for the underage children after so. If a child is less than 18 years old, they cannot travel, and after 18 years old, they're not children anymore, and they're not subject of our problematic. And that's why we're working with the Ministry of Education. We're trying to facilitate the returning process for the Ukrainian children, like, for example, facilitated exams, widening of the admission campaign for the educational facilities, because a few hundred people that returned, children that returned from the Russian Federation, are already using these kinds of programs, of education, and these programs will last and increase, and this is not enough as well. In practice, by working on these routes, on these programs, we are focusing our attention on the problematic, and we need to work with the families directly. It is very hard to fill out the paperwork, to make properly do the paperwork, and also to decide who will be responsible for different components of this operation, and there is a lot of worries and sometimes even panic during the returning procedure. Usually it happens through humanitarian corridors, like for example, starting January 2026, it will be obligatory, mandatory biological identification, because this will make harder. So the Russian Federation is making the process of returning the process harder and harder and harder by using these kinds of steps. Like the known story of the girl who were returning for a few years, and we also have examples where the children are being returned back, basically to the Russian Federation, and we need to engage more international partners, because Russian Federation is just basically limits, does not let the relatives to get into the Russian Federation to get their children back. In Sheremetyevo airport, it is virtually impossible to get into the territory of the Russian Federation, and those who manage to get physically, they are getting a 50-year ban for entering the Russian Federation. So, on top of that, there are attempts to get to Belarus, for example, and then from Belarus to they are implementing a criminal responsibility paragraphs from the criminal codex, and Russia. It is just another evidence of the Russia being unfaithful in their actions. And when the Russian Federation is saying something, this child is already within the Russian family, so you need to start with finding an advocate, a lawyer, and start some kind of procedures. And when we are telling them, what if we give you the mediation party, if there will be a mediation party, they refuse. So the adult Ukrainians, the children of military, Ukrainian military personnel, they are at risk abroad. That's why they're forbidden from leaving the territory of the country. And these constant obstacles, they prevent from the children getting back from the occupied territories. And also very important to talk to the media. And through the media, the message has to be relayed that you are being expected here. And the safety remains also essential. Like, for example, when entering Ukraine, there is shellings, there is security dangers and threats. And thank you for your answer. Thank you for this event. Thank you to all who is watching and listening to us. Thank you to our speakers today for your study. To all the organizations who are working on the returning of our children and the their rights protection. And of course, we are thanking to the armed forces of Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine. Bye-bye.